Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Uncle Claude here. Happy New Year's, belated to everyone. I know I haven't really been live for a while, um, especially dealing with sports. And later on, I'm going to do a special live stream, which will have absolutely nothing to do with sports. But I had to obviously touch up on the Antonio Brown situation. And ironically, I didn't even see this game. Um, Not in the beginning. I've since seen the highlights. Um, I was spending time with my family. Um, I won't go too far into that, but I've I've been watching football for a very long time, and I've been a Steeler fan since 1975. I'm not going to tell my age. I mean, I just gave you a clue. If I've been watching the Steelers since 1975, that lets you know that I'm upwards of 50. I'll just put it like that. And listen, I've watched damn near every moment of Antonio Brown's career. And I remember when they drafted him out of Central Michigan, where all the talk was about actually the other guys. See, the Steelers had a very good draft class that year. They had Emmanuel Sanders, they had Mike Wallace and Antonio Brown. And in fact, his rookie year, they made the Super Bowl. Now, he was not the big receiver on that team. It was actually Mike Wallace because he was the speedster that could get down the field. He was considered at that time the more dangerous and the more lucrative wide receiver. But Antonio Brown, his work ethic is top notch. And that's the sad part about it. No one had worked harder at his craft. In fact, in the Killer Bees' heyday, Antonio Brown and Le'Veon Bell were the two hardest working Steelers. That's actually an indictment on the quarterback. And he'll be celebrated later on this evening, and rightfully so. I'm not trying to tarnish Big Ben's career or whatever. But especially this is really about Antonio Brown. But this actually goes back to that because you have to know the genesis of this entire situation. Because yesterday wasn't an aberration. See, anybody that knows anything about Antonio Brown and about his career knows that this was just something waiting to happen. Now, we didn't think it would happen to this aspect. We didn't think that we would see an actual meltdown on the field in the middle of a game because I've never seen anything like that. The closest thing I've seen to that was Avante Davis retiring in the locker room because he was frustrated with his team. That's about the closest thing that I've seen to that. And he retired in the middle of the game with, hey, Princess, yeah, I'm a little live. I'm doing an early live because actually I'm up a little early, and plus I actually I had to hit this because this guy, I've been watching him for a very long time. And as you know, being a huge football fan, especially being a huge Steeler fan, and this also ties into mental health, I had to touch on this because it is clear that Antonio Brown needs significant help. He really does. And I pray that he gets the help that he so desperately needs. But I'm not going to sit up here and absolve Antonio Brown and try and coddle him with kid gloves. I'm not going to do that either, because that would be a disservice, because he's a grown-ass man. And what he did was inexcusable, especially in the sport of professional football, where, let's face it, football is akin to being in the military, and you have to be accountable for your actions. And I tell you what, he not only showed how horrible a teammate that he is, or in the case of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, that he was, but he shows you he's a guy that you can't trust under any circumstances. You cannot have a guy like that in your foxhole. Because as a team, you have to all unite for one common goal. And there's going to be a lot of guys who are going to say, well, they got a championship last year with him. I mean, did he help him win a championship? He did. But he wasn't the reason they won a championship. I mean, let's pump the brakes there. And I actually thought that Antonio Brown was going to have a huge season. And it did look like that until the vaccine card ridiculousness. And it's absolutely ridiculous watching this guy, man. And let's face it, there was a stretch where Antonio Brown was unquestionably the best wide receiver in all of pro football. Period, point blank. It didn't matter whether you were a Steeler fan or not. If you had to ask who was the best receiver, and I'm going to say from 2014 to 2018, who was the best wide receiver in football? It was Antonio Brown, hands down. Now, you want to have a couple of guys who wanted to be cute, say Julio Jones was better than Antonio Brown. I'll tell you what. Have you seen Julio Jones over the past 3 seasons? He's played like crap. He can't even get on the field with the Tennessee Titans. And is that a lot? Is a lot of that injury? Absolutely. But Antonio Brown, it is absolutely disgusting to see how far he has gone down. And listen, there were hints of this. Ryan Clark, his ex-teammate, warned us of this. And he told a little bit about this a couple of years ago when he was going through the problems with the Oakland Raiders and later on the New England Patriots. And let's face it, it also shows you, which is also a part of my heading in my title here. It shows you how great a coach Mike Tomlin truly is. Now, for all the Steeler fans out there who want Mike Tomlin gone, and listen, am I frustrated with Mike Tomlin as well? Absolutely I am. And I'm not even going to sit up here and tell you that if the Steelers decided to fire Mike Tomlin and get a different voice in the locker room, I understand it, because it's been a while since the Steelers' last Super Bowl. It's been about 11, 12 seasons. So I understand it. Nobody is as frustrated as I am as a Steeler fan. That being said, he had to cover up a lot of BS when it comes to that Steeler locker room. And when Antonio Brown pulled the stunt that he did on Facebook years ago, this was about 2016, after a big division victory over the Kansas City Chiefs, and they were about to head into Foxborough, heading into the AFC Championship game, I'm going to tell you, if I were the head coach, I would have sent Antonio Brown home on the spot after what he did that particular game. Because he invaded and disrespected the sanctity of the locker room. And that is inexcusable and unforgivable. as an NFL player. Because that's supposed to be the one fortress of solitude that you have. When he did that, I would have gotten rid of him the next day. I don't care if they had to play an AFC championship game with him. Sometimes you have to show that he is not above the team. And I understand that he is the best wide. At that time, that was 2016, ladies and gentlemen, he was the best wide receiver in football. And I understand that that would have damaged. And listen, they got cream with him. The Steelers got murdered that game. So it wasn't like, oh, well, we need Antonio Brown. Antonio Brown did nothing against the New England Patriots, who I believe, I think they lost to the Eagles. We almost had they did lose to the Philadelphia Eagles that year. So disheartening. Now, Le'Veon Bell had messed up his groin late in the game against the Kansas City Chiefs, and he tried to give a go of it. Little did we know that that would be the last playoff game that the Steelers would win. Little did we know that that was the beginning of the end of the Killer Bees, but it was. Then you see how bad a teammate he was. I'm going to give him a pass against Big Ben, because Big Ben did a terrible job throwing him under the bus. He threw Antonio Brown under the bus first. But Antonio Brown was so bad to everybody else as to where it was time for him to go. Period, point blank. He threw Mike Tomlin under the bus. Obviously, he threw Big Ben under the bus, but he threw a rookie Juju Smith-Schuster under the bus, and that was unforgivable. The Steelers wanted Antonio Brown out so quickly that they got rid of him. They sent him to the Raiders for 3rd and 4th round picks. And I was killing Kevin Colbert, thinking, listen, you could have gotten at least a 1st or 2nd rounder for him. I mean, you went the small route. Now, a lot of people will say, well, it looks like the Steelers were right. They did get some picks, and you see the path that his career has gone. Now, again, we understand that he was part of a Super Bowl winning team last year, but that had as much to do with Tom Brady, Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, as it did Antonio Brown. Was Antonio Brown a nice piece to the puzzle? He absolutely was. But he wasn't the final piece to the puzzle. He was not. Okay? And that also goes to who else is responsible for AB's meltdown yesterday. Now, we know that Antonio Brown, he's a grown man, so I am not absolving him from this, because what he did was ridiculous. There's no other way to put it. But there are 2 other guys who are just as culpable, in my opinion, as Antonio Brown. Okay, maybe not as, but Antonio Brown gets 50% of the blame. It's 50% Antonio Brown, 25% of the blame, because it's split in half, goes to the 2 guys who run the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And I'm not talking about the owner and the GM. I'm talking about Bruce Arians. Oh, yeah, Bruce Arians is a damn liar. I don't want to hear any more about, oh, I have this connection with Antonio Brown. You never liked Antonio Brown. You didn't even want him there. And trust me, I understand it. But I don't want to hear about some kinship that they had. So much for that. You could wait to not talk about him after the game. He's no longer a Buck. I'm not talking about it anymore. Shut up, Bruce. Bruce Arians just needs to shut up. Because you had him there, but you know what? We know on whose feet it lies on the most. And nobody wants to talk about it. But I tell you what, the same way that in basketball LeBron James is getting killed for Russell Westbrook, and rightfully so, because Russell Westbrook has been a disaster with the Los Angeles Lakers. Listen, we all know that if it wasn't for Tom Brady, AB wouldn't even be anywhere near the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. He wouldn't be in a uniform at all. Tom Brady had him over his house. He made it sound like they were buddy-buddy. So this is also on his foot as well. On his doorstep, excuse me. Because let's face it, he begged and pleaded for AB to be a member of this team. Bruce Arians wanted no parts of the team having Antonio Brown. He wanted nothing to do with Antonio Brown. But he caved in to old cheating Tom. Excuse me. Did they get a Super Bowl out of it? Yes, they did. So I guess in the short term, they did get something out of it. But he probably ended their season. You think they're going to make a Super Bowl without him? As depleted as they are? And let's face it, that's the reason Antonio Brown wasn't cut in the first place after that fiasco with the fake vaccination card. Because they know that Antonio Brown was dealing in a position of strength. They had lost Chris Godwin for the season. Mike Evans was really the only real receiver that they had outside of Antonio Brown. And he had just come off a 100-yard game last week. And he was set to get more targets. Now, from what I was told, and from what I gathered from many news sources, was Bruce Arians wanted him to get back into the game, and he just flatly refused. And then he just melted down, and we all saw, the rest. He basically threw off most of his clothes, took off everything, threw it to the stands, started doing jumping jacks, and just hauled. I tell you, it's sad to see how far Antonio Brown has fallen. But we can't say that we weren't warned. Do I think Antonio Brown is going to get another shot somewhere? I've learned, listen, unless you're Colin Kaepernick, everybody else gets a shot. But I do think that it's Antonio Brown's last stand. I don't think he can come back from this. And I think more importantly, Antonio Brown needs to get help. He really does. I don't know if he has any children, but I know his family has got to, whatever family that he has got to be devastated. And I don't know who's close to him, but they really need to reach out to him. Like, listen, man, you need some help, man. I mean, what's wrong? And I mean, just really talk to him man to man or woman to man. I don't know who he's most close to in his life. Because this is much deeper than, oh, he needs to play in the NFL. Was this his last shot? It's a lot deeper than that. Because let's face it, only Antonio Brown knows what he's going through in his head. And listen, we do not need any more tragic situations. I mean, this man could have PTSD. He could have CTE. And many a football player has committed suicide. I mean, we know about the Mike Websters and the Dave Dewersons and the Junior Seaus. So I'm not up here trying to make a joke out of it, because this is no laughing matter. Mental health is not a laughing matter. And personally, I pray and send positive thoughts to and for Antonio Brown and his family and his loved ones. But from a football standpoint, you cannot have him in your locker room. You cannot have him as a teammate. You can't. And once again, this shows the extent of how great a coach Mike Tomlin was in dealing with the several personalities that were in that locker room. For all the detractors of Mike Tomlin, look at the guys, what happens to these guys when they leave the Pittsburgh Steelers. Look at Antonio Brown, gone. Look at how look at the last 3 stops. Look at Le'Veon Bell. How'd that work out? Santonio Holmes was a Super Bowl MVP. Once he left the Steelers, how'd that work out for him? All these guys, when they leave the Steelers, none of their careers have gotten better. I'm just saying. The proof is in the damn pudding. I bet you Le'Veon Bell would have taken that contract and ran with it with the Steelers. Ironically, he was on the Tampa Bay sideline getting a full close-up of what was going on with Antonio Brown. Now, obviously, he doesn't have the cachet of the rest of those guys in the locker room to go up to him like, hey, buddy, but as a teammate to teammate, knowing as long as they've been together as a Steeler, he should have went up to him. And I think that's a weird sign that he didn't try. And let's face it, I don't know if that would have made a difference or not, because you see how he shoved off Mike Evans and just said, forget it, and did what he did. But I'm telling you, it never goes well for these guys. Once they leave the Steeler organization, they are never the same players. Never. Have you seen the tackle for the Pittsburgh Steelers of Villanueva? How's he looking there, Baltimore? Baltimore's probably not even going to make the playoffs now. You talk about free falling, that team. My God. Another tough loss yesterday for them. All these ex-Steelers, they don't work out too good after leaving Mike Tomlin and friends. I'm just saying. But, listen, I can't say that I didn't see it coming, because I did see it coming. I didn't see it coming to this degree, but let's face it. We were all warned. We've seen what's happened with the man. And this is definitely on Bruce Arians, but more so on Tom Brady, because he begged for this man to be put on his team, and you see the result. We saw the good, the bad, and the ugly in all of 2 seasons with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And it's a shame. Because he was once the very best wide receiver in all of pro football. And now he's a walking joke now. And it's sad. And then here you have old Tom Brady, who is getting no grief for this, and he's the reason that he's even on the damn team. No other team would touch him with a 10-foot pole. But old cheating Tom, the so-called GOAT, I gotta have him on the team, please, please. No. Come on, please, Antonio Brown. I promise we can win. We need him. Okay, fine. Because it's you, old Tom Brady, we're going to put old Antonio Brown on the team. In the short term, did it work? Absolutely. We saw the result last year. But we knew that it was a ticking time bomb when it comes to Antonio Brown. And unfortunately, until he gets the necessary help that he needs, it always will be. Thank you so much for joining me this morning. Please like, share, and subscribe. UncleClaude signing out. Stay safe, take care, and listen, if you're dealing with anything, if you need to talk to somebody, please do that. Because no one can deal with anything unless people know exactly what you're going through. Take care, everyone, and God bless.